Hi everyone. Hi Roxy.
Hi,
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's Wednesday, so we're halfway through the week. Roxy, tell me this. Are you attending our event tomorrow?
The in-person one?
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not able to because I'm not vaccinated, unfortunately.
That's fine. Love to hear from the rest of you all whose cameras are off. If you guys are planning to attend, you can unmute or drop it in the chat.
I was planning on going, but my car broke down last weekend.
Uh,
Terrible timing.
No.
Nothing like MTA.
Wait, what is everybody talking about? Attend what?
The 125th annual meeting. You should have gotten the invite. I sent it out to everyone
Is it a
here.
meeting or a party?
It's a party, but it's
Okay,
called
I was
the
like,
annual
hold on,
meeting.
I'm not coming all the way to New
No.
York for a meeting.
So it's called the annual meeting, but it's actually always a party. And we invited our interns. I made sure to send it to all of you on this call, just so that you had the option to attend. It's in person, and we do have limited capacity. I believe RSVPs closed at 5 p.m. last night. But if there's somebody who wants to attend that was unable to RSVP, just sort of write me a message on the side, and I'll see what I can do for you.
I will be there.
Me too.
Awesome. I'm so excited. The dress code is business fab, which I know you are both familiar with.
Oh, really? I didn't know
Wait,
that.
I'm so sorry. What? I was just gonna wear a dress.
That works. That's
That
business
may
fab.
or may not be like a tank top dress.
I mean, you'll be fine.
I feel like it all depends on where you work. Like,
yeah.
Very
I
cool.
work at the Ad Club, so I'll be wearing something a little bit more on the conservative side.
okay.
Yes. But hi, everyone. It's so good to see Roxy and nobody else's face. I know we're feeling the hump, the stress of the summer, especially with the Growth Initiative program. I'm hearing great things about the work you're all doing. So just kudos to you all on that. And I'm going to introduce you to who will be leading our tactical workshop. So I know typically we have the fellows leading the workshops, but today we have some of our very own young professionals from our Young Professionals Committee here to talk to you a little bit about networking. So we have Regina Guinto and Anita Sheares. Regina is the head of product design at S'more, and Anita is the senior manager of performance and content marketing at Marvel Entertainment. Awesome.
Yay.
So you guys can just take it away when you're ready.
Yay. Well, happy Wednesday, guys. And thanks so much for taking the time to be with us today. So like Maya mentioned, Anita and I are both board members of the Young Professional Group. So that is the under 30 organization of the Ad Club. So we typically produce all of the events and webinars and networking sessions that are geared towards you guys, this new rising generation of future advertising and marketing and creative leaders. So it's really wonderful to meet you all. So I had been, as a background about me, I'd been in ad tech for about 6 or 7 years as a designer and creative strategist. And last year joined a startup with a few of my old colleagues. And actually, we all knew each other through the ad club too, which is quite a fun story. So now I had design at a startup dating app. It's called S'more Date, and you all should 100% download the app if you're looking to meet someone this summer, but I digress. And I have the absolute pleasure of sharing our workshop with the fabulous Anita Sheares, who is also vice president of the Young Pro Board. So I'll throw it over to Anita for a quick intro as well.
Hi, everyone. So Anita Sheares, really excited to be here. I have always been in marketing, but started my career off in fashion marketing, working at Ralph Lauren very quickly. And I realized I didn't like fashion that much. So then I switched. I joined a startup, Swell, which is a reusable water bottle company. I was there for 3 years and realized I don't like startup life. So then I am now at Marvel Entertainment, which Marvel is owned by Disney. So I appreciate the corporate ladder. I like hierarchy and structure, but very excited to be here because I feel like throughout my career, what was able to help me pivot was networking. So really excited to kind of chat with you guys and make networking more fun for you all.
Yeah, so I'm sharing my screen right now. So like Anita says, our workshop today is about relationship development and how to network like a pro. So we had a few icebreakers here at the top that we wanted to ask you guys. So Maya should be setting up this poll right now. And we basically want to get a feel for how comfortable you guys are with networking. Oh, there it is. So what type of networking are you most comfortable with? So in-person events, so happy hours, conferences, networking events, online events. So this could be just meeting someone through social media, through LinkedIn, through virtual happy hours, or is it see none of the above? And you're just or maybe you've just had no experiences with them. So for me personally, I would say that I am most comfortable with in-person networking. Not that I enjoy it, but I would say I'm most comfortable with it. I find that there can be a lot lost in translation with online networking sometimes. And I feel like for in-person, you can at least do some sort of vetting, some prep work, kind of figure out who you want to go up to in the room and kind of get a little vibe check from people beforehand. Whereas I feel some virtual events, I think you could be thrown into a room with random strangers, which can be quite disorienting. So are we going to find out the results of the poll here? Did you see that? Oh, yay.
Ooh, look online. I voted for online, by the way.
Oh, wow. Oh, I was thinking that most of you guys would say none of the above. So that is a great start. But we are here to make you guys all feel more comfortable with networking today. So that's why we're here. So our second slide.
All right. So next up, I would love for everybody to use the chat feature and tell us, what is your biggest fear when it comes to networking? So like, are you worried about embarrassing yourself, not knowing what to say, feeling like the person that you're networking with will feel like you're uninformed, or something else? For me, it is definitely feeling like the person that I'm speaking with is uninformed or thinks that I'm uninformed. But then also, I find small talk sometimes really difficult. So especially at conferences, it's like you may talk to somebody for a while, but then it's like, but then how do you end it? Like there's a lot that goes into it. So, and even just like if you go to a conference by yourself, like jumping in and starting to like network with strangers can be a little overwhelming. So, okay, people said how to end the conversation. People said all of it. That's right. Okay. All right. We know.
Okay. Yep. Absolutely.
Oh, yes. Okay. Smooth approaching. Yeah, I feel you guys. So our goals, for this week are really to help you guys, easily access and find opportunities to network. Cause, there's the part of like actually networking, but you have to, be proactive about where and when and how you're going to network, being able to leverage your network to your benefit. So once you meet these people, how do you stay in touch? How do you stay in contact and build and develop those contacts? But then lastly, making you feel comfortable so that you can go out into the world and network away.
Yay. So networking 101. So what is networking? I know it sounds like this fancy MBA term, but it really just means building meaningful relationships with people. So these relationships can be built over coffee in the student center. You don't need to think of it as a strictly professional skill, but it is a skill that you'll need to learn regardless of your major or your intended career. So here we have the 4 main types of networks that you guys might not even know that you have. So the first is your personal network. So these are your friends, family members, classmates, established mentors, people who genuinely know you on a personal level and you know them. The second is your professional network, which is what you guys are probably thinking when you hear the term networking. So these are people within your company, your manager, could be your fellow interns, your team, adjacent team, and clients or business partners if you have them. The third is your industry network. So organizations and nonprofits like the Ad Club of New York, of course, as well as conferences like Ad Week, South by Southwest, Her Campus. And so many of these events offer special discounts or even free tickets for students. So keep an eye out for these opportunities online and use that EDU email to your advantage. Use it for everything that you can. You can get some really great deals and go to some really cool and visible events. And then lastly, your last network is your wide network. So we call this your diverse network. And these can be college clubs, fraternities or sororities, if you have them, your professors, the career center, your alumni network, which for me was a really big help starting my career when I first graduated as well. So that is all part of your wide network. And yeah, if you guys are just thinking, I'm a student, I don't really know anybody, I don't have a network, we just encourage you to get out of that mindset and be positive. You really have all 4 of these networks that are available to you right now.
All right, so the key takeaway here is develop a diverse network. So your career, your life will change. You'll make lots of pivots like I did. So you never know who you're going to meet over the next few years. So it's very important to cast a wider net when it comes to developing contacts. And I would say, like right now, I have a mentor at Disney and she's a lawyer, but that was really important for me. And I would also say, network across different states. We're virtual now, so you're not limited just to New York. So if you're interning somewhere and they have an office in California, set up a coffee talk with somebody in California and figure out what their West Coast office is like. And then lastly, I would say don't sleep on people, anybody who you encounter walking in your building or your office. You never know where you may run into them or where just having a positive relationship with them will benefit you in your career. So that can be anybody from janitors, executive assistants, office managers. There were times when certain offices in New York, like you can't bring boxes in the front, but because I was cool with people at the front, they would let me do certain things. So just making sure you're always open and always, thinking about who can you build a relationship with.
Love that. So now you know where you guys can network, and we wanted to kind of prep you and discuss, of course, building your professional brand. I know you guys have reviewed this topic already, so we'll kind of make it quick and have a quick overview. But number 1 pro tip, of course, get that LinkedIn profile in shape and start connecting with your direct network while you're a student. That's just kind of the one takeaway that you guys do today. Just create that LinkedIn profile. Number 2, make sure your personal email address is employer friendly. I absolutely had Zac Efron Lover, like 1991, as my email back in the day. That is not employer friendly. So I'm sure you guys have your EDU emails, but make sure that you own your first name, last name, or something with your official name as your employer friendly email that you will be sending resumes to. Or resumes from. Tip number 3 is an interesting one. As you guys all know, we're at this really cool moment in time where you can actually leverage your personal social media to your professional advantage. You can become a brand ambassador, you can get sponsorships, you can get clients, you can get job opportunities, depending on how you present yourself on social media. But for other people, that might not be helpful. Oh, you can't see the presentation anymore. Is that happening for everybody?
I can see the presentation.
Maybe because they're on a phone. So I think what you have to do is click your viewing options and maybe click till you find the presentation.
Like a full screen presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is this better to do it this way?
I don't know how I lost it. Do I put more? Do I click? I'm so sorry. Do I click? I'm sorry. You guys can continue. I don't know.
Don't worry.
Maybe leave and come back.
Yeah, it might just be.
Oh yeah. I'll leave and come back in.
Okay, cool. I'll just keep this here then. But yeah, I think so for other people that might not be helpful. So you might want to draw a line between your personal and professional brand. I know Anita and I have different takes on this.
Yeah.
So let Anita chime in here.
So I draw a very firm line when it comes to social media. I do not allow my coworkers, my managers to follow me on social media. Not that I post anything crazy, but for me, I feel like social media is just about like catching up with my friends and posting about my weekend life. And I felt like when my managers followed me, it was just too close. And so now I proactively block everybody that I work with so that they can't find me. But I just feel like I need that separation. But by all means, I will add everybody that I know on LinkedIn, but social media, I keep it separate.
Yeah, and I think that's super interesting. As like a designer and creative person, I think we all know how much cool like creative content and creative people are on Instagram and now TikTok in particular. So I think for me, I've always kind of leaned in to having public accounts and having my personal brand be also my professional brand. I've legitimately hired team members because I just followed them on Instagram and have loved what they are posting on social, on the stories, as posts and whatnot. So as a creative, I found that super valuable. But on the flip side, I do have to say that I can't be 100% authentic on social media, which is another topic in itself because I am super. You have to be very purposeful about what you post. It's very curated, and I think mentally that can also kind of weigh on you and take a toll. But yeah, it's I think now's the time to kind of start thinking about what you guys want to do there.
And what Maya said in the chat is really key about potentially having your like business social. So because I work in digital, I'm always on Instagram with my team showing each other cool ads. So I actually did create like a work Instagram account that I don't really post anything from it. But if anybody was like, oh, let's start like a DM thread, I'll just give them that Instagram so that we can keep it separate.
I like that. And then, I guess our last trip for building your professional brand, and maybe this is further down the line for you guys, but we definitely recommend creating like a simple website through Squarespace or WordPress, whatever that website builder of the day is, with your resume, because ultimately you do want to own your top Google search result. So ideally, a potential employer should be able to Google you first name, last name, and have something, whether it's your LinkedIn profile or your Instagram or your own website, pop up as that first search result. That really, really helps with kind of building your professional brand.
Right. And one more point about LinkedIn. So my first internship was at AT&T, and my manager at the time made me add every single person that I worked with on LinkedIn and take every single person or ask every VP and above out to lunch. And every VP that I asked to lunch took me to lunch, and everybody that I added on LinkedIn now, however many years down the line it's been, now I can follow these people in their careers and see where they are now. So it's like we all were at AT&T, but now these people are all at different companies, and I can, go back and look and say, hey, like now you're at, Facebook, let's chat. So just making sure that you add people now, because you will forget people's names. So just making sure that you have at least over 500 plus contacts in your LinkedIn.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think as a student, maybe we say this later down the line, but everybody is just so excited to meet you guys at this stage of your career, and willing to give back. So don't be afraid to, make those connections on LinkedIn or kind of reach out to anybody.
All right. So next is the give and take of networking. So, you kind of get out of it what you put in. You cannot expect for people to, introduce you to everybody or recommend you for different things if you're not willing to do the same for others. So I always thought about this, especially when I was looking for a job, is you kind of have bad experiences with people where you're just like, hey, I just want to know what your company is like. I don't want anything from you. I don't need you to forward it to HR. So the people that didn't speak to me, I was like, okay, I'm going to make sure that if anybody ever reaches out to me and wants to know about my experience, I can give them 15 minutes of my time and tell them that. So I just wanted to outline, the give and take when it comes to networking. So you can think about it as gifts and favors. So what can you give people? You may think like, I have nothing to offer, I'm still in school or I'm still learning, but that's not true. You can give compliments. So if you're friends with somebody on LinkedIn and you see that they have a new job, take an extra step instead of just congratulating them on LinkedIn, and send them an email or send them a text message saying, congratulations, I'm so proud of you. That goes a really long way. When you then come back a couple of months later and ask for something, they can see the track record of, oh, this person supports me. Or, if you come across a book or an article that reminds you of somebody, you can say, hey, you gave a presentation on this, this article made me think about this, and isn't this interesting? So just making sure that you are, complimenting people, giving them something that made you think of them. Or something that you have access to that they may not. When I worked at Ralph Lauren, I had access to clothes. So it was very easy for me to gift clothes to people. At Swell, I would gift water bottles. I would gift water bottles for so many things. You'd be surprised the amount of media buys that I was able to barter with some water bottles. So just making sure whatever you have at your disposal, use that to your advantage. And then any free advice that you may have on a skill that could benefit them. So I'm obsessed with TikTok. I don't know how to post on TikTok, but I watch it. So if you are on TikTok and you're like, this is how to make a video, or this is how to do this, like that's a valuable skill that you have that other people don't. So, using that to take to your advantage, or recommending it. If your social team is doing one thing, say, hey, what do you think about this strategy? And let me show you how to do it. So just always, giving advice. And then when you think about favors, so the number one and two favors to 100% avoid is asking someone to pick their brain. Do not do that. That is the worst thing that you can do. Also, you don't ever want to ask somebody something that can be easily Googleable. So like, don't ask somebody, hey, do you have openings at your company? It's like, look online and figure that out. Or if it's something that can be answered very quickly via email, don't waste your time asking that favor, because it comes off as you being uninformed and not on it, if you will. Like, you got to do your research and come correct when you're asking for things from people. So make sure that your favor is particular, it's definable, and it's something that can't, be answered via a quick Google search or a quick email reply. So some examples of favors are, introductions to a team. And one thing about the favor is you kind of want to tie the favor with a gift. So if you're like, oh my gosh, congratulations on this new job at Facebook. Once you start, I'd love to be introduced to X, Y, and Z person. So you always want to pair a gift with a favor. Another one could be asking somebody like me or Regina, hey, you've been in your careers for X amount of years. What sort of industry events or what organizations are worth my time and my money? Asking them, what trends should I pay attention to if I want to be a creative director, or if I want to be a digital marketer, what should I pay attention to? And then lastly, it's, asking questions like, was there anything that you wish you asked, like when you were my age, that you didn't when you were interviewing for a current role? I think that is a really great question to ask, because for me at a startup, I didn't know to ask, like, who owns the company? Who's all involved? Who's the senior leadership? Who's behind the scenes? I think that's the difference for me, because I came from Ralph Lauren. So it's a publicly traded company. You can Google everything online, whereas startups, you may have to ask different questions as you're interviewing. So being able to ask that like deeper level question when you're asking for favors of people will show that you're really interested in their response, and not, I'm reaching out just to reach out.
Love that. Yeah, you always just need to make it personal. And then I think our next slide. So now we want to talk about the actual act, of networking and putting yourself out there. I think, like many of you mentioned in the chat, it does not come easy, or it might seem like that, you're not a smooth talker. I feel that way about myself included. So we've put together some of our favorite tips for how to kind of effectively communicate. And I think number one is always just kind of preparation. So prepare a 30-second elevator pitch about yourself, about what you're studying, what you've done, and what you'd like to accomplish. And that's it. I think that practicing that pitch and practicing being comfortable introducing yourself makes breaking the ice so much easier. So practice alone in your apartment in front of a mirror. You can practice with your roommates, practice with your friends. Just start kind of talking, and then just kind of try to figure out what, a good way to introduce yourself would be. So don't be afraid to prep and talk to yourself. Number two is remember the name of the person that you're speaking to. It's such a small detail, but one that, so many people can forget during networking events. So I always find it super impressive when someone remembers and kind of takes the time to remember my name. So a tip I do have is to always repeat the name back when you're meeting someone. So Anita is going to introduce herself, and then I'll say, Anita, and, shake her hand, nice to meet you. And having that moment to say it out loud and, kind of repeating it back, especially if you couldn't hear the name or not sure what that name is, it really helps that name stick right at the front. Tip number three is have a set of small talk questions prepared. So my go-to small talk question is always about the weekend. If it's early on in the week, it's what's something fun did you do, over the weekend? If it's later on in the week, is it any fun plans coming up this weekend? It's Wednesday today, so, it could go either or depending on what you're feeling. But I think most people are genuinely looking forward to the weekend. So I think it's always positive to start something, to start with something positive and start on a good note. And then number 4, I think, we said that remember that most people will be excited to meet you, especially at your age. People are just willing to give back and invest in you. So have the confidence and don't feel like you're intruding on that conversation. Like they are excited to meet you. So don't be afraid to just kind of go up to someone and say hello. And then number 5, and I think some of you said this too, don't be afraid to exit and, exit gracefully during a natural pause in the conversation. You do not need to be stuck there. It's totally normal to leave as long as you do it in a mindful manner. So my trick is to always carry a drink in your hand. It does not need to be alcoholic. But that way you can drain it and use that as an excuse to leave. You can say, I'm going to go grab another drink, excuse myself, need to go get some water or hydrate, whatever that is. But it's an easy out. So always carry a drink when you're walking around. And then I think our overall takeaway for communication is to just be curious and ask open-ended questions. It will absolutely take you guys some time to feel comfortable opening up. It's going to take some time for you guys to feel comfortable going up to people. But, just focus on asking them questions first. Everyone has their own story to tell. So ask about, their career, what they studied, what school they went to. I found that most people actually love talking about themselves. So if you don't feel comfortable and you feel like you're an introvert and networking makes you uncomfortable, you can kind of deflect the conversation and just, ask questions, and the conversation should naturally follow after that.
Great. And then next we're talking about the follow-up. So essentially you meet people or you have a network and, how do you reach out to them? What are the different ways? And then what can you expect in terms of a response rate? So this is from a book called Reaching Out by Molly Beck, which we will include in our resources section at the end. But there's basically 4 different ways to reach out. The first is the reach out. So you're essentially reaching out to somebody that somebody you went to school with maybe, but you currently don't communicate with them very often. Even though you don't communicate with them often because they know who you are, hopefully, the response rate is usually about 80%. Then, it's like the follow-up. So maybe somebody you met recently, somebody you met at a conference, I'd say that's about, 60%. And the one thing when meeting people at conferences and connecting with them on LinkedIn, I always, no matter where I meet people, I always will say where I met them when I request them on LinkedIn, because some people go through their LinkedIn every week. Some people take months, so they may forget about you. But if you say it was so great meeting you at X conference or X event, then I'm like, okay, I have met you. I'll accept you automatically. But if you don't say anything, then I'm like, I may not accept you because I don't remember who you are. So, making sure you just add little notes when you reach out for the follow-up will take you a very long way. And the next is a borrowed connection. So reaching out to a friend of a friend, or, asking to be introduced to somebody, or having somebody suggest that you know somebody. So Regina may be like, oh my gosh, Anita, you should know this person. So that response rate really depends on the relationship that you have either with that friend or that friend has with the other person. So, you kind of just have to be mindful of that. I'm always willing to usually introduce or connect people, or just say, hey, I'll pass this along. It doesn't hurt me to forward an email to HR, and sometimes I'll put a disclaimer. I don't know this person, but they look great. Here you go. FYI, passing it along. So, you got to take it with a grain of salt, but that's why it's important to continue to build these connections so that people are proactively connecting you with people or willing to connect you with people based on your reputation and your brand. And then lastly is the cold call. So reaching out to somebody who you have no idea, you have no connection to, that, response rate can be 25%. And you kind of got to be a little thick skinned when it comes to it, because sometimes you're reaching out to people and it's just not the best time. So they may not respond to you. I try to get back to people, but sometimes it doesn't happen. So I would say if you're cold reaching out to somebody, maybe follow up once. If you don't hear back, you got to move on. Don't email somebody 10 times asking to connect, because that can get very stalkerish very quickly.
That's where you get blocked.
Yeah, for sure.
Spam. Yeah. And just kind of as a summary to what Anita is saying as well, like how to stay in touch and just kind of nurture that relationship. Like she said, follow up the next day with a personalized note. So you remember where you met. I think it's also beneficial down the line. So you can search your sent messages, your sent emails, because sometimes, you forget why you know someone. So it's good to have a little bit of that history there. Number 2, share a gift first. Again, like Anita was saying, send over an article they might like, or something that reminded you of that conversation. Extend an invitation to an event. You want to start that relationship off on a positive note. So be that person to share a gift first. And then lastly, just kind of celebrate those small wins. It might not seem like something, but just liking, when they got a promotion and posted on LinkedIn, or they're moving to a new city, or of course, changing careers, changing jobs, that, sending a like or a congratulatory comment just kind of puts you top of mind. And again, kind of continues this positive relationship that you have. And then lastly, really our key takeaway for this whole session is, networking is about building long-term relationships. It's not just making contacts or, just kind of making another, connection on LinkedIn, but it's a living, breathing thing, and should always be evolving even after you find that first job in college, because there will always be something more for you in the future, something better. And you'll never know when you'll need to call upon, your old classmate, your old boss, your, fellow alums, whatever that is. So treat your network well, and really take the time to nurture it, because you're ultimately investing in yourself by investing in your network.
Exactly. And one other thing I'll say is you have to treat networking kind of intentionally like you would your career. So I wouldn't know Regina or Maya if I didn't network, and if I didn't tell myself, okay, I was like, I'm going to join my school's alumni association and I want to join a professional organization. So I made those goals for myself. So even as you're at your internship, maybe it's, okay, every week I'm going to meet somebody new. I'm going to invite somebody I don't know to coffee. You have to keep up your relationship or your network, and you always have to make sure that you're not stagnant. I know it can be tough when you're busy and you're like, I have too much work to do. But at the end of the day, some advice that somebody gave me is, if you are ever out of a job, you will find a job more, like people will refer jobs to you that are the people that you don't work with. So it's almost like your network outside of your actual job. Those people will help you better get a new job than the people you currently work with. So just remember that it's like, sure, you should have good relationships with the people you work with, but you have to continue fostering people outside of your company, because that will ultimately benefit you in your career.
Love that.
All right. And then some resources. So if you're still like, I don't know about networking, I mean, you can always research and Google it. So here are a couple of books that I've purchased that really help. One is Brag Better and the other one is Reach Out. And it really gives you very good templates for like, here's how to here's how to cold email somebody. Nobody cold calls anymore. But like, here's how to send an email. Here's how to send a follow-up. It kind of gives you step-by-step instructions for how to reach out, how to network. And it's really attainable in a very short, fun little book. And then next would be, using your resources in terms of your university. So going into the career centers, going into the workshops. For most schools, there are recruiters that will come. So making sure that you follow up with those recruiters, follow up with to say, hey, who's coming that's going to be in marketing next, or where are the creative people coming? And then also remembering to connect with your fellow professors, alumni, and fellow students. I will say I went to Spelman College, and I will say anybody who reaches out to me that went to Spelman or goes to Spelman, I will speak to, because that's just how strong our network is. So just making sure you really foster that and you lean into that. And then lastly, making sure you continue to network with the industry people. So I fully expect everybody to message me on LinkedIn, and to be my friend on LinkedIn, because that's really how you grow your network. You can just say, thanks for the great workshop, so great, like you just got to make sure that you're constantly growing, building your resources.
So we put our personal emails there for you guys. Find us on LinkedIn. Love to stay in touch and kind of help you guys even further. But let us know if you have any questions. That is it. And we'll also share the presentation with you guys, of course, after the call as well.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Can we talk a little bit about networking for introverts and just people who are a little bit more shy and tend to get drained quickly?
Yes.
I was like, I'm not an introvert, so I got to think on that one.
I consider myself an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like if you were to meet me, most people would say that I'm an extrovert because I have forced myself to be that person. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like we were saying, it's all about preparation, and kind of practicing your pitch, practicing public speaking. I think looking back at my college courses, the one class that I truly remember and kind of have retained has been this public speaking class that I took. And basically each class you had to kind of give some kind of presentation, a pitch. It was videotaped, and then you would have to watch yourself back and then do it again. So, you kind of learn a lot about how you're speaking, the way that you're presenting yourself physically, and it's not comfortable. It's really not comfortable as an introvert, but just kind of practicing and watching yourself speak will really helped me, at least as an introvert, to feel a little bit more comfortable public speaking or meeting new people in general.
And I would say, like, take it step by step.
Yeah.
If you're an introvert, maybe don't go to a conference like Ad Week and start walking around like I'm going to meet people. Maybe it's start with one-on-one, saying, hey, let's go to lunch. Let's go to coffee. I'd like to get to know you, to start with your coworkers, maybe people that you know, and then start with people that you know a little bit less. I think, you got to do what's best for you and what makes you feel the most comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. And you can find people with common interests, especially, through student clubs, through organizations like the Ad Club. So know that you guys already have something in common. And everybody, again, is willing to make a connection, especially in this post-COVID era. Like we've all been so isolated and so lonely. Don't be afraid to reach out, and don't be afraid to introduce yourself and make a new connection.
Thank you. That's awesome advice. So we have a question in the chat, and then I know Jensine has her hand raised. Nicholas said, what are the best ways to keep in contact with people in your network long term? How often should you reach out to reconnect / update them? What would that look like?
I don't think it has to be robotic.
Yeah.
It can be very natural and organic. So even though I did say that I don't let my coworkers follow me, usually after I leave the company, I let my coworker friends follow me. So it could be something as like replying to their Instagram story saying like, oh my God, I'm glad you're doing well. I miss you. Or, sharing something with them, or sending them a text message or an email, just saying, you came across my mind, just thought of you, hope you're doing well. It doesn't always have to be so professional. It could just be a quick touch point. Oh my God, did you see this article? Or, something like that.
And again, I think that's why LinkedIn is so important too, because, you have those just kind of updates or people sharing articles. So you can keep in touch in a much more casual way just by, adding in a comment or just liking their post. So that's also still kind of staying top of mind and also keeping in touch.
Yeah. And then Jensine has a question.
Hi, I'm Jensine. Thank you so much for this discussion. This was really helpful. I'm just gonna piggyback off of the question before, Nicholas. Okay, let me word this properly. So I have a meeting coming up with someone that's more senior in their career. And, even though I've been doing really well to like break out of my social anxiety, because the meeting was like more far out, like 2 months from now, and then I really just stressed how I would love to have the meeting earlier. So the person scheduled the meeting earlier for me. I don't want I don't want the conversation to be not of value to them, since, they're like more senior in their career, and I know that I'm taking time out of their schedule. So my question is, how do I explain this question? I'm so sorry.
How can you have some, like a valuable conversation for both of you?
Yeah, basically with like, that's just, that's not necessarily on like a specific company or anything. It's just really finding out if that specific career path
Oh, okay.
is for me, and just dealing with anxiety, and narrowing down to what career path you want to go to based off of their experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, number one, I think this was not your question, but you shouldn't feel like you have to choose a career path. And you shouldn't feel that anxiety. I know you all feel it as, kind of college students and recent grads. But your career is going to take you to a lot of places. It is a journey. I think, but yeah, both Anita and I don't think you could have predicted where we wanted to go. And me too, like I did not major in kind of design or advertising, or I was a film major and a business major. All of my internships were in film, actually, and fashion, both of which industries, I am not currently part of. So, I think you should try to alleviate a little bit of that anxiety, because, you don't have to just pick one direction. And go with it. So you just kind of see where your journey takes you there. And then B, to really answer your question, I still think that it's all about preparation. Like Anita was saying, take some time, even if you're not going to ask directly about the company, but, take some time to review that person's LinkedIn page, to see what they've been up to, see if there's any kind of recent news pieces or articles about the company that you can use as talking points. And if you're really just kind of looking for career advice, just be upfront with that. Like senior manager or senior management and executives, again, so excited, so kind of willing to give back their time to the younger generation. And I think that's a very normal type of conversation to have with a student and a manager, or someone more senior than you.
And I would say your feelings are valid, and they know how you feel. Everybody has felt how you feel, like, I don't know where to go. And like, what about this? And what about that? So as long as you're prepared, and I literally, when I meet with people that are more senior than me, I write down questions. Whether I'm meeting with them virtually, I'll have the notes on my computer, or if I'm meeting with them in person, I will bring a notebook and have my 8 questions for them. And that will definitely go a long way. But also explain yourself and your journey, and just say, hey, I've done this. I don't know how I feel about it. I'm kind of interested in this. What do you think? And having just more of a natural conversation and sharing how you feel versus just being like, what about this and what about that? It'll make the conversation flow. So you should be okay.
Yeah, I think it'll be a very natural conversation. So just have some questions ready and be prepared, and you'll do great.
Thank you so much.
We got a couple more questions in the chat before we move on. So the first one is from me. Just to talk a little bit about those networking lunches that you mentioned, Anita. Should you be ordering a burger when you're having a networking lunch? And what is the flow of that? And how do you maintain that level of professionalism while you're in a comfortable setting at lunch?
Yeah. So it's almost like a combination of Jensine's question. And so it's like, even though you're eating lunch, you still have to come prepared. So maybe you don't have your notebook because you're eating, but you have to know what you want to speak to this person about. And then also just set your expectations. So technically speaking, the more senior person should pay for the lunch, but that does not always happen. So you should be ready to pay for this lunch if that's what you need to do. So don't go somewhere super fancy thinking, oh, they're going to wine and dine me. And they look at you crazy like, oh, let's split it. And then you're like, well, I can't afford this. So, manage your expectations that way. But then also, I would say, I would not eat a burger. I wouldn't necessarily eat anything that's.
Yeah, I feel like you rarely are actually eating. If the conversation is actually flowing, like, you're probably going to have to eat lunch afterwards, or, take it to go.
Or maybe it's like an appetizer and you just have like a little dip with them. But sometimes I'll do salads. Like I kind of match the person that I'm with. So depending on what they order, I'll order something to complement that. And then, even though the setting is comfortable, you don't want to get too comfortable. So, even though you're out of the office, you're still in the office. So just don't get caught slipping and keep that lens of like, this is still a business meeting. We just happen to be snacking or eating.
Yeah. And if I had the choice, I would probably try to suggest more of like a coffee break or a coffee, like, networking over coffee versus a full-on meal.
I would agree, especially with more senior people. Like I just don't have time. Like I would love to go out for lunch, but realistically it may be better for like a 9 or 9:30 a.m. coffee.
Yeah.
Great advice, great advice. And then Derek said, as people of color, do you think it's harder to get involved in the industry and connect?
No. I would say you got to lean into your networks.
Yeah.
I'm going to be really, who's this recording going to? I don't know where this recording is going, so I'm not going to be that honest.
Let's keep it safe for work.
We can talk offline about my true feelings, but I will say, listen, I'm a Black woman. I went to a historically Black college. I'm going to lean into that. I'm going to find all of the Black women, Black men, Black people that work in marketing, advertising, went to an HBCU, and I'm going to lean into that heavy. I'm going to stalk people that go to Ad Color Conference. I'm going to lean into my diversity and use it for my benefit. But sure, sometimes it is jarring sometimes to walk in a room, a networking room, and be like, oh wow, I'm the only Black person, so I gotta bring my A game. But because I went to an HBCU, it definitely prepared me for that. But you do have to be mindful of that, of, maybe some of these people, maybe I'm the first Black person that they've interacted with in a very long time. So I mean, sure, sometimes there are uncomfortable moments, but I use being a woman of color to my advantage and don't think of it as, oh my gosh, I have to work. I mean, I do have to work harder, but you get what I'm saying. I'm going to just stop.
Yeah. I think the industry is changing. Everyone, every team is looking to hire a diverse team in every sense of the word, diversity of thought, race, ethnicity, all of that. So I don't think there really is any kind of disadvantages of being a minority right now. People, like Anita is saying, lean into it. Companies are looking to hire more women, more minorities, people of color, all of that. So
we're hot right now. So take advantage of it. I'm not kidding.
Exactly. Take advantage of it. Exactly. Yeah.
And then I know that Lynn has a question, and we're going to wrap after that just because we have to move on to our executive salon.
Yeah, so thank you guys so much for coming. So I was just wondering, like, I know you guys said that you have to like keep up those relationships and stuff. But for instance, like I'm an AD or like a hopeful AD, and then sometimes I'll meet like a creative director and they'll give feedback. But it takes a while, especially like during the holidays and stuff, to actually work on that thing before I contact them again. And there's been like 1 or 2 projects where like I've changed partners and stuff. And so I didn't want to just reach out. And I wanted to make sure that I actually like took their feedback and made those changes and then brought the work back to them. But for some cases, like because of the situation, it's been a while. So when it's like an extended period where you don't really talk to the person just because you don't want to have like a useless conversation, like that like doesn't show that you've actually taken to consideration what they've said. How do you guys like approach that sort of situation?
Well, I think you're right on. You don't want to have a conversation just to have a random conversation. If the moment is not appropriate, I don't feel like like Anita was saying, there's no like cadence. There's no like, numerical value that you have to hit. You need to stay in touch every month or, every 3 weeks or so. So, each relationship is very different. And, just kind of think of it as a relationship with your friends too. So you just kind of feel it out, and you always do want to have meaningful conversations with everybody that, you are trying to keep in touch with. So if the moment is not right, I would say don't reach out, and, don't just have a conversation just for the sake of having a conversation, and wait for an appropriate moment when you do have something meaningful to share.
And maybe be creative about reaching out if you're like, okay, I haven't worked on this, but I'm thinking of this person. So I always use like anniversaries of things. So it was like, oh my gosh, 6 years ago today, we launched this product, or we did this, or we were in California together, thinking of some of my past coworkers. And I'll just say, didn't we have like the time of our lives, miss you? Or I mean, obviously don't say miss you to people that you don't know like that, but just reminding them of something that you guys have done together that can serve as a touch point so that you're still top of mind and they still feel a connection to you without it always being so professional.
Yes, yes. Thank you. That's all the questions we're going to take at this time. Please connect with Regina and Anita on LinkedIn and email. They shared those out, and we'll be sharing out the presentation as always. Regina and Anita, again, thank you so much for coming, for dropping these gems on networking. They were actually extremely valuable, and I hope everyone took notes on them. So you're welcome to stay on for our executive salon or hop and run and live a life.
Or go back to work.
Yeah, or go back to work, whichever one you have to do if you insist.
We'll hope to stay in touch, and we both will be at tomorrow's in-person meeting if you guys want to meet us live. So hope to meet a couple of you guys there.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for having us. Bye.
So now we'll be moving into our executive salon, which features Hayden 5. And from Hayden 5, we have Todd Wiseman, who's the co-founder and creative director, and his team, who will be talking to you about Hayden 5. Hi, Todd, I see you.
Hey, how's it going? I'm joined just by Tatiana on my team, and that's it.
Sure, let me see.
Thank you to the last speaker. That was great. We just popped in for the very tail end. I want to make this as beneficial to everyone on this call as possible. So it would be great for me to know, even just from a few folks who want to jump in, where everyone's at career-wise, and if anyone has a particular interest when it comes to video or advertising as a whole. Maybe I can help cater the message. Obviously, we'll let you know, the whole company background, the story, and show you some stuff. But yeah, I'd love to try to dial it in if anybody has any particular interest. So maybe, yeah, I don't know if that would come from moderator.
I believe we do have some graphic designers and creatives in the group. If you just want to throw it in the chat, whatever your special creative discipline is, that would be really great.
Cool. Yeah, and I can just go ahead and get started, and I'll keep an eye on the chat here. Okay, art direction. That's great. Cool. So the story of Hayden 5. Hayden 5 is a video agency. We've been around for 12 years. My business partner and I met at NYU Film School. We're from very different backgrounds. As you can see, I'm just, your random white dude. He's from Brazil, and we were neighbors at NYU, and we were making movies together while we were there, really connected as friends, and decided, to have a partnership. So we actually met in the Hayden Hall 5th floor dorm in the year 2005. That became Hayden 5. We're on our way to being a $20 million company and do some really exciting things in the video space. So it began with both of us just sort of collaborating on individual projects. So we'd go out and call ourselves Hayden 5, and we'd make a commercial, or we'd make a music video. And then we got serious when we got out of school. All right, let me just take a look at these comments. So senior year, interest in art direction, background in film photo, advertising masters, recent grad, art direction, television minor. All right, cool. So this is a cool story for anyone, kind of in that field. There's some business lessons, and then there's some just sort of life things that happen to us along the way. And can you remind me how much total time we have? It's 30 minutes.
You're good until 1:30.
Okay, cool. So why don't we show our little presentation? I'll use this to talk about what we do as a business and where we're going. And I'll tell you a little bit of our pandemic story, which is a really interesting one. And Tatiana is from our accounts team, and thanks for joining me today. And I've been a member of the Ad Club for a very long time. I should add, it's been so helpful to me as a industry member and as a business owner. I think it's been, I want to say at least 10 years. And I love coming to the in-person events and meeting all the different members. Okay, so this is us. Let's jump right into our little presentation here, show you kind of what we do. So this is actually a still frame from a movie that we made on Netflix called Long Shot. It's about a guy who was wrongfully accused of murder, racially profiled, picked out of a lineup, and his life was gonna basically be over. But his alibi is that he was at a Dodgers game, and it's just so happened that Larry David was shooting an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. And you can see that movie on Netflix. But anyway, it says here we're a production services first company, which is underscores the fact that we, in the production business, I don't think enough value is placed on, logistics and execution. A lot of it is placed on, which creatives do you have on your roster? Which directors do you have available to us? Which editors do you have available to us? The way we look at it is any director you want, any editor you want. We don't have a roster. We never will. What we do really, really well is execute. So we find that not having a roster doesn't limit us. We can work with the right director for the right job, right DP for the right job, and so forth. This video is on our website under Drop Crews. If you check that out, hayden5.com. We shot this in real time all around the world with our local crews all around the world, just to kind of showcase our own capabilities. All right, let's see what else we have. We'll skip this little slide. Actually, our head of accounts was the president of the Young Pro board at the Ad Club, and I met him there. Let's skip this. And okay, so here's some stuff. Why don't let's look at the famous people, because why not? This is just showcasing some of I'm in a lot of the promo
every
videos.
few years, somebody will.
Yeah, let's take a look at this.
We'll bring it up or something, and I'll tell the story.
How did you slap me?
I have the iPhone 40. I am very excited to present to you a group of people that ran in the 2020 Democratic primary.
There's a spirit of resilience and overcoming struggles that has made America the country it is today.
What was my most memorable night of sleep?
We were underestimated constantly. Right. Secret weapons. Secret weapons.
Some people try to make lyrics, but they end up writing better lyrics when they're just talking.
XOXO, Gossip Girl. There you go. Now I can do it.
Perfect.
Cool. So a lot of that you'll see is talking heads, and that has to do a lot with where we really excelled during the pandemic. But also it leans into our main focus as a company, which is leaning on local crews and local vendors around the world. When we were just starting our company, people would say, hey, you did a good job on that, Joel Santana video. We want you to go to San Francisco and shoot something. And Milos and I were like, well, it doesn't really make sense for the money for us to fly out and do. Why don't we hire a local crew there? We will hire them. We will vet them. We will execute from afar using the internet and so forth. And that worked for us. And that's really how we were able to scale. Cloud Cuts is our post-production service where we utilize similar technology to have low latency client edits. And use and empower local editors and post-production professionals around the world, which is really exciting for us. Let's go on. And at any point, I can't see the questions right now. Here we go. If there's any questions along the way, just drop them in the chat and I'll try to answer as we go. I'm not going to show you this stuff right now. So, but you can kind of see that these are the types of brands and companies that we work with to execute video. The LinkedIn job up there was a job where LinkedIn was like, hey, we want to profile our local businesses around the world. So we really do a lot of very global executions. We shot that a little bit in South Africa, a little bit in Shanghai, a little bit in Denver, you know, local crews matching the look and feel, shooting kind of signature video portraits of all of our subjects everywhere around the world. We just finished a movie like this actually about people who've been deported, people who grew up their whole lives in the United States and then got deported. That slide, or is that original slide in here? Okay, so we'll get there in a second. But anyway, one of the key things about our company is executing locally and making it all feel consistent. So even with this CM Nike job, all 4 of those women are in different cities, different locations, right? This Facebook Rooms job, that was actually directed by Michelle and Olivier Gondry, who are really cool brother directors. Michelle Gondry did like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and he was laying in his bed in Paris or whatever, directing this commercial while we had our teams all around the country shooting that. Okay, let's move on. Okay, cool. Yeah, so we do a lot in the social impact space. Innocence Project is very new. That's something they came to us. I think they saw a long shot actually, because it was somebody who was, you know, about somebody wrongfully incarcerated. I would highly encourage, this is one I'd love for you to see. We didn't film anything for this. This is all just existing media, a really post-production heavy production. We partnered with Mina Harris, who's actually Kamala Harris's niece, to do a Crown Day PSA that also came out recently. The lockdown was with Ogilvy and is an sort of a gun control commercial. So for projects like this, we either like partially fund them or do them at a highly discounted rate, because, you know, we like to try to participate in making some good things and not just making money. Let's see what's next here. Okay, we do a lot of these. This is a great thing to talk about. You know, my clients are, I want to say like 50% agency, and within that would include PR and experiential marketing firms and stuff like that. But also we work a lot direct to brand. So we work direct with Square, Com, Salesforce, and a lot of these big companies have built out really big internal teams that really understand video. They understand creative. They kind of know what they want. They can collaborate with us to hire a local director, a local team, you know, a multi-city execution, and put together really beautiful high-end, either, you know, company profiles or like some of the stuff never sees the light of day outside the company. Some of it's for conferences and stuff like that. But today in the world of video, you know, everything is expected to happen at a really high level and to look really good and sound really good. We won't show you these, but you can kind of see from the still frames sort of the quality of what these companies expect from us. I'll add here that we do about 3,000 shoots a year. So we do a lot of volume. So here's our original. So we do this stuff partly for fun. We pick projects, movies, films that we are interested in. We get behind and try to, you know, make them and sell them. Long shot, some of you saw, we live this short doc about the subway dancers in New York City, this group that premiered at Tribeca. American Exile, I was just telling you about, it's not out yet. We're still working on it. This is about the people who have been deported. And Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, we found a really interesting book on video games. We liked it. Each chapter is sort of an anthology book, and we're like, let's make it a TV show. So we're currently marketing that. And those are the types of things that we would sell to a network. So we do have that original side of our business. What is next here? Okay, so yeah, we'll just kind of cruise through these. This is like, Clara and I wanted to do these really cool drag brunches live. So this was something we did for them. What else we have? We spoke about that one. We can skip this one. That's that international shoot. Spotify. You know, it's funny. We actually just shot. So we actually produced all the Kids Bop videos. Kids Bop is still around. It's the 20th year anniversary. this is a Spotify case study. We worked with Spotify to do some stuff with local artists, and we did this cool thing with Lil Nas X right when it came out. But we did the Old Town Road version of Kids Bop, which got like 40 million views or something crazy, because he's actually a big fan and he retweets it. And last week I was in New York visiting, and we did Montero Kids Bop, which should be awesome. It's so cool.
That's so awesome. Can we watch the video?
I can show you so it's still being edited right now, but it will come out soon. I can show you a sneak peek that like nobody has seen. You know, if you've seen the Montero video, to do that Kids Bop version, obviously we didn't go with the same premise, but we Kids Bopified it. Let's see, where is it? Hopefully I can.
Do you guys know what Kids Bop is? Just show by show in the chat. I mean, I might be dating myself a little bit. Okay.
Okay, I'm having iPhone breaks down your stuff into all these different. I can't find it. Anyway, it's like hilarious kids running through hallways and singing Call Me By Your Name. It's very peppy, and you can check out Old Town Road. That's online. If you just Google Old Town Road Kids Bop, it's great. So you were 5 when it came out. Yeah, it's great. It came out when I was a little bit younger as well. All right, what else do we have in our little case study? The DNC, that was cool. Everyone except Bernie wanted his own crew because whatever, but and we have worked for him in the past, but everyone else we deployed a team to, and we did this live roundtable for the DNC. What is next? Talked about that. We can skip that. We do some animated stuff. This is an interesting story. So Bullmore Lanes was my first real commercial client. When I first started Hayden 5 with Milos, they were on University Place down in Lower Manhattan. We made their very first video. All these years later, the entrepreneur who started that company bought Brunswick and AMF. So they're now like the largest bowling chain in the world. And they're still our client. So important to do those small jobs in the beginning. You just never know. Okay, what's next? Yelp, love stories on Yelp. We'll skip it. I think we just kind of cruise through these, Tati. I don't know if there's anything. We talked about that. This Conscious Mind. Well and Good's one of our bigger clients where we do a ton of volume for them. You can see a lot of their stuff on JetBlue, and it's a lot of wellness and cooking and exercise content where that's direct to brand. It's just us and them. They're creative. We chime in where we can and execute a bunch of stuff. What's next? Okay, I think that's it. We can wrap up our slide presentation and chat through any questions that anybody has. And yeah.
So can you just talk to us a little bit about the creative process for these campaigns from conception to execution, what that looks like?
Sure. So, sometimes like the Nike job, that's through an agency. So the agency has come to us with very specific creative. This is exactly how we want you to execute this. We do it. Now there's creativity involved with everything, in terms of the talent that you're using to execute, the framing, the lighting, and that's a collaborative process. But so in a circumstance like that, we just execute. In a circumstance like Lil Nas X Spotify, they said, hey, we've got Lil Nas X for 2 hours. He just released a mega hit. What can we do? And we did the Lil Biggest game show. And we came up with the concept. We brought in, some contestants, and he was the judge, and we did a game show. And it was a one-off piece of content that lived, mostly online. So it really depends. In terms of the process, we work with a number of different creatives that will help generate ideas. The Crown Day spot, actually, which we just did, is completely from scratch creative. We worked with JJ Anderson. Did we work with JJ Anderson on that, or is that Innocence Project? No, JJ, it was JJ. And she came up with that idea. We worked with a poet who wrote the poem. We love just collaborating with different creatives. Like I said in the beginning, our emphasis is on execution and logistics, and but that pertains to creativity, especially when you're sourcing different creatives that you want to work with. So yeah, hopefully that kind of answers that.
Sure. And where do you source for those other creatives to kind of add that supplemental sort of aspect, like for copies, for instance? Do you have like in-house copywriters, or do you outsource to another partner that you have?
Sure. So creative is something we really have only recently started to scale. For most of our company history, the emphasis has been on owner-operator cinematographers and editors and local producers and directors. And now, just like the rest of our sort of freelance, base, we're a team of about 30-ish full-time. And then the freelancers, we work with are thousands deep. We do have an internal proprietary software where, that kind of sorts our different vendors and helps us understand where they're located, what their rates are, how the past work they've done for us turned out. But yeah, it's just a matter of, I think the last speaker said it, just leaning into our networks of people in all of our respective circles and letting them know, hey, we do a lot of work. We'd love to know how we could work with you. And we bring those people into this circle.
That's awesome. And then kind of going back to your original work, can you talk about a little bit of the process on that? And sort of, I know you said that it lives in-house sometimes, conferences also, like, can you talk a little bit more about sharing those out?
Do you mean, so the originals would be different than the internal, like, so for what we did for Salesforce, yeah, something like that. Sometimes, like right now, we're piecing together a conference that they have internally called Dreamforce, but they spend millions of dollars on this internal conference for their company. It's a big company, but they spend a lot of money to make sure that experience is really cool for their speakers, their employees, the attendees. So there's a whole side of this business that, doesn't end up as a Super Bowl halftime ad. And there's a lot of work to go around, and there's a lot of things that need to be made. So, we've never shied away from doing stuff that isn't the glossiest, isn't going to be necessarily winning the Cannes Lion, even though we did win one of those for First Moon Party, which was about like a femcare ad. It was also pretty viral, which you can see online. And then the original stuff just comes from, like, my business partner and I met in film school. We both are interested in a certain type of story, usually revolving somehow around a social justice issue. That was Long Shot. That was American Exile. That's We Live This. That's not the video game show. We just thought that was cool. So sometimes we're just like, oh, this might make a good unscripted show or a movie, and put our internal resources towards making it happen.
Is that when you were Man with a Cam?
So there's always been Hayden 5, and there's been Man with a Cam, and Hayden 5 is actually Man with a Cam Inc. DBA Hayden 5. We used to kind of keep them separate, Hayden 5 being our creative label and our movie label and our high-end ad label, and Man with a Cam being our volume production services angle. Several years ago, that the name Man with a Cam, one, that says man, and we are not a bunch of dudes, one, and two, it just, our client, we kind of surveyed our clients, and they were like, yeah, it makes you feel small and cheap, and so we just got rid of that altogether, went under Hayden 5, and that is how we that's what we go by.
That's cool. And then I just want to ask, what advice can you share with the students about sort of breaking into this specific industry? I know we talked about freelance a lot, but freelance is a little bit difficult for people who need to support themselves financially and are really just trying to get their feet in like solid ground in the industry. So what can you share?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, my business doesn't exist without freelancers. So we rely entirely on freelancers to execute the work that we're doing. So I will say, in our industry, if you're interested in being, a cinematographer or a director, just getting on set as much as you can is really helpful, and just being around the process in whatever way you can early on is helpful. And then eventually, an investment in some sort of equipment, especially if you're going to be an owner operator, DP videographer. That is the core of our business. If you're going to be an editor, a good editing machine, which is sort of a catch-22 because you need the work to get the job, to get the money to, right? It's a little bit hard. We actually started an initiative called Gear for Change, where we are purchasing equipment packages for under Hayden 5 Rise, our philanthropic arm, for underrepresented people who want to get into the business and need help buying a camera package. That is called Gear for Change under Hayden 5 Rise, and is in conjunction with the Video Consortium. And I believe that may still be open for applications if anybody's like interested specifically. That one is for videographers. And then I think the last speaker also said it, but most people want to help. It's so helpful to know from someone how you can help them. So if they're like, I specifically want to work in the art department, and the art department on a film set is different than being an art director at an ad agency. But so film set, art department, then I can say, great, I know 3 production designers who I can put you in touch with. You can go work on their sets and you can start to learn that side of the business. If you come to me and say, I don't really know what I want to do yet, which is totally fine. It's just hard to make a really good suggestion as to how to gain experience in a particular field. But I think leaning into your networks, the ad club is an amazing one where you'll see the people around you getting different jobs in different aspects of the industry for the next 10, 20, 30 years. Like, it's really exciting. Stay in touch with all the people here because you'll all come up together.
Yeah, thank you. And then I just want to give the students a chance to ask any questions that you might have. You can throw them in the chat or you can unmute yourselves. Mute myself so that you have the space to talk.
I have a question. What characteristics should an entry-level employee have to be successful in this industry?
That's a great question. I think it's important that you don't just attend the meeting, and it's so hard in the virtual world, right? But you don't just attend the meetings that you're meant to be in. You might learn something from, a logistics or an accounting meeting, if you're allowed and able to be in that room, than you would just going through your regular protocol. I also lecture at NYU where I went to school, and had I just taken the curriculum that they gave me and tried to do that and walk out, there's no way we would have started a business. Had to meet somebody else. We had to go produce things for other people. We had to meet more people than we're just like that. We're in our particular lanes. So like intra networking within the company is a really good idea. Being in rooms that you can be in to listen and learn and contribute, when you can, is a great idea. There's a young man named Daniel Ambroso who he's actually my buddy's little brother, and he was at the Atlantic, and he was taking it. He was like an in-house, video guy, and one day he was in the Ciatiana. He was in the elevator with the CEO, and he pitched himself. He pitched a movie. The guy ended up greenlighting the movie, and he got Oscar buzz, and now he's at the New Yorker. But it's just, I'm not saying to corner CEOs in the elevator all the time, but being open to networking and speaking about things that are exciting to you and interesting to you. People feed off that energy, and I think that's a great way to start.
Good answer. Any other questions?
Well, if not, it's been a real pleasure. I'm very easy to get a hold of. It's just Todd at hayden5.com. So feel free to drop me a note anytime. We're located in New York, and I'm in the Los Angeles area. And so the New York folks are always welcome to swing by our office. And soon we'll have one in New York. I'm sorry, LA.
Oh, there's a question in the chat.
Yeah, question. Do you need to go to school for film to work in it? I think the answer to that is always no, unless it's a very hyper-specific industry. I would say most of the people at our company didn't go to film school necessarily. I work with some of the greatest people I work with in the industry did not go to film school. What they did was they got interested in the subject. They started working with other people who were also interested, they just put themselves out there and got on some sets and got cool internships and, made their way like that. Film school can be a barrier of entry. It's definitely not necessary. It was helpful for me coming from Florida, like moving to New York, like not really knowing anything about anything doesn't mean that it's necessary. And if anyone's really interested in this particular industry, just drop me a line. We can always chat. For sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Todd. I've shared your email in the chat, so everybody make sure you take it down. Todd and Tatiana, thank you for joining us and for showing those really cool projects that you're working on, that you've worked on at Hayden 5. And I always appreciate you staying connected. For those of you who don't know, Todd and Hayden 5 have been a part of the Lunch and Learn series since before we went virtual. So we love that, like you said, you stayed connected for about a decade, and we're so happy to have had you here.
Thanks for having us. We're huge fans, and good luck to everyone here. You're going to do amazing.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
So just a final reminder to everyone, if you're able to attend the event on Thursday, we'll see you tomorrow. And if you're not, then we hope to see you next week on Wednesday for our final Lunch and Learn. And until then, everybody have a great afternoon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome.